Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Cavanaugh's Corner, the labor talk show in southern Maine on public access television. I'm Mike Cavanaugh. I'm the host of this show, and this afternoon I'm joined by a returning guest, Jack McKay.
Thank you, Mike.
Jack is a Maine native who has spent the last number of years working for the National Labor Committee in support of democracy and human rights in Central America. And we have earlier had the opportunity to talk with Jack and his colleague Barbara Briggs about the National Labor Committee's work. And we have an opportunity this afternoon to talk about this in some more detail with Jack, in particular because the issues of worker rights in Central America and in the Caribbean are very much in the news, given the current situation in Haiti. So, Jack, I'd like to welcome you back and ask you to start a little bit talking with our viewers about why are these issues important? How are the issues of worker rights and conditions in the Caribbean and in Central America connected to the lives of working people here in the state of Maine?
Okay, thank
That's
you.
a very broad topic. But
Yeah, I'll give it a go.
okay.
As Mike was saying, the National Labor Committee, where I worked, it was founded in 1981, supporting worker rights in Central America, in El Salvador, Honduras, and these places. In the late 80s, the issues that trade unionists in Central America talked to us about was the development of maquiladora companies, assembly companies in Central America, and what that meant for wages in these countries. So we started to look at the issue, and when you look at some of the companies there, you see some very large U.S. manufacturers in Central America and also the Caribbean. So this whole issue of maquiladoras and worker rights in Central America, we quickly found was linked to the fact that many of these companies had shut down in the United States, closed their doors, thrown out their workers, moved to Central America to pay workers extremely low wages, 30, 40, 50 cents an hour. Now right there you've got the connection. A U.S. worker loses his or her job, mostly her job, and the factory goes down to El Salvador, Honduras, or the Dominican Republic. And the impact of plant closings in the United States is not just the person losing their job, but you lose all the tax revenues. You lose all the companies around it. I mean, you know this issue, very well also. It's a critical issue. So we've been looking at that for 3 years. We, did a piece on, was 60 Minutes, a Nightline, which focused on U.S. tax dollars helping companies move offshore. And we can talk about that later, or
Sure.
dive right into the Maine shoe industry.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about the impact specifically in Maine in a second, but I think that one of the things that strikes me is that people who may not be in the shoe industry or the apparel industry or electronics industries, those industries who've seen plants closed and shift operations, may feel that this doesn't really pertain to them. But I guess I would argue and ask for your opinion a little bit about, isn't what we're seeing sort of similar in some ways to how companies used to try to drive down wages and standards for working people, before capital was so mobile, before they could literally move their operations to another place, they would essentially import, low-wage workers, import, immigrant labor, or, people who were brought in to drive down conditions as strike breakers or things that maybe the paper industry would be familiar with here over the years. And now, because capital is so mobile and it's so easy for them to move, we're in a global economy. Everyone recognizes and talks about global economy. Isn't this really sort of an update, a more modern version of an old story of capital pitting labor against itself?
Right, that's 100% true. Instead of before, where you'd import workers, perhaps they were poor blacks from the South, to come in and break the Ford unionizing attempts in Dearborn, Michigan in the 1930s that led to the Hunger March. Now, instead of moving the workers to the plant, or they're poor Irish or poor Italian, whatever, they'll move the plant to the country. So they'll go to Haiti or to Mexico. But the impact is the same. You're pitting one worker against another on the basis of their wages. And the ripple effect in an economy is enormous, because the National Manufacturers Association says that for each manufacturing job, you generate 2 additional jobs. Everything from the local store to the trucking industry that's going to bring things into the store, to the accountant for the store, or the store will have a lawyer, right through the society. So there's a great multiplier effect. The Wall Street Journal just recently did an article that said that white-collar wages are very much related to union contracts in the manufacturing part of the company. So when the union gets a pay raise, white-collar workers get a pay raise too. If the manufacturing jobs are getting pay cuts, which has been the case for the past 15 years, the impact on white-collar workers has been harsh, and it will continue to be harsh when you've got a situation like this.
I think what we're going to find in discussing for the next hour with Jack these issues and the research and work that the National Labor Committee has done about this, I think we're going to find that this really has a direct relationship to issues that are front and center in the state of Maine. I mean, here in Maine, it's October of '92, or October of '94, I'm sorry, and we're in the midst of a gubernatorial race, and everyone recognizes that the issue is jobs in the economy, and everyone agrees jobs in the economy is a major focus in the state, and everyone is discussing what is it that the state can do to try to deal with the loss of jobs and the changing nature of our economy, and pretty much everyone comes around to decrying in some way and bemoaning our fate because of the loss of manufacturing jobs, and what sort of strategies can we as a state develop to try to retain manufacturing jobs, or even to create and expand manufacturing jobs. Well, there's a lot of ideas that people have kicked around about that, and I have some ideas of my own, but I'd like to sort of talk a little bit about how it is that our policies as a country, not maybe the state of Maine's own particular policies, but really our national government and national business policies have led to the decline of manufacturing jobs that we're now suffering from. And Jack, I wonder if you might sort of take a look at this from that point of view. What have you found in your committee's work have been policies that we have adopted and followed that have led to the demise of our manufacturing base?
Okay. In 1982-83, there was a great debate over the Caribbean Basin Initiative, which was passed and enacted as the Caribbean Basin Economic Recovery Act in 1984. Basically, this piece of legislation, which was trade legislation, along with a great deal of money from the United States Agency for International Development, which is the primary means by which the U.S. government gives aid to developing countries. That's the agency that they use, the U.S. government uses. This agency decided that the way to develop the Caribbean Basin countries is by the maquiladora, which is basically assembly type industry. So you've got shoe, apparel, electronics. So the strategy is we've got to get factories there to employ people, give them jobs in El Salvador, the Dominican Republic, to do assembly work, and the goods are going to be exported to the United States. Is the way, the natural market. So this was a very concerted, thought out, and expensive policy, which basically included planning free trade zones for the factories to locate, funding U.S. accounting groups to design what sort of legislation the country should have, actually paying for the building of the factories, paying for the sewage supplies, training the workers to be employed in the companies, giving airplane rides to executives to go down to Honduras or all these countries to set up their factories, and the whole kit and caboodle from A to Z. And this was clearly blown open by the 60 Minutes case, where you had people from the National Labor Committee were posing as executives of a fictitious company. My old boss, Charlie Kernigan, was one of them, and they went with undercover cameras to El Salvador and find out, yes, that's in fact what U.S. government employees were doing was helping jobs go offshore to these free trade zones. Now, the impact of the free trade zones on wages is a little bit complicated, but basically what it summarizes is the countries of the Caribbean Basin were told, you have one economic advantage, you have one natural resource, and that's cheap labor. That's what you have. You don't have fantastic universities, you don't have research, you have cheap labor, and that's what you've got to use. And in the Nightline piece, which really showed it very clearly, is the U.S. textile and apparel industry has conferences across the United States all during the year where basically retailers or manufacturers will go to other groups to get goods made, to get a shirt made or contracted out. At these conferences were representatives of U.S. paid-for organizations, and they would say to the U.S. manufacturers, come to El Salvador, because we can get your goods done very cheaply. Why can we get them done so cheaply? The wages are 50 cents an hour. Move your factory here. You can have guaranteed access back into the United States. We'll train your workers, and you only have to pay 50 cents an hour. Guatemala will say, whoa, we'll pay 40 cents an hour. And Honduras and Guatemala went back and forth as to who had the lowest wage. And they'll say, oh, well, it's 55 cents fully loaded. And the advertisements of this really horrendous. I mean, it's almost mind-boggling to imagine
Is this Rosa?
that these representatives of a country are literally competing, saying, we'll pay our people less. You can pay our people less, and they'll work incredibly hard for you. And then the next country comes along, no, we can get our workers to work for even less than that country. And this goes on year after year, and the wages have been slashed. In Honduras in the past 10 years, wages dropped 46%. In the Dominican Republic, between 1983 and 1992, they dropped 58%, from $1.33 down to 56 cents an hour. So there's your proof. They're trying to attract investment on the back of cheap labor. The cheaper the labor, the more the investment, so the logic goes. Another facet to this is the free trade zones, which I mentioned earlier, and come up again and again. These free trade zones, they have a lot of advantages for companies and few advantages for workers. They're basically surrounded by barbed wire. You have to go past security guards. I've got photographs of them with an ID card. Absolutely no unions. There's not one functioning union in an export processing zone made in the 1980s and 90s in the entire Caribbean Basin region.
Well, what you're laying out here is not just accidental, right? I mean, the point of this is that these are the conditions, and this is exactly how these countries are trying to attract investment under the theory that this is the way they're going to develop their economies.
Right.
And this is a theory that is not just theirs, it's also ours, or not yours and mine, but this is has been, as I understood it, the official policy of the United States government going back, 12 years or so ago, to the establishment of the Caribbean Basin Initiative. That was, and this is not exactly similar, but it was sort of the NAFTA of its day, in a sense, at least the way I would look at it. This was the big trade deal that was passed by our government with much less controversy, of course. I mean, CBI, how many people know Caribbean Basin Initiative? But in some ways, it seemed to be the precursor of the NAFTA of current days, but has led to the development of many countries' economies on this very model, which I think from the point of view of workers in the state of Maine has been a disaster for us, because we've had an awful lot. Our history here in Maine has been, the wood products industry, paper industry, and the textile and shoe industries. Maine has been known for, potatoes and paper and shoes and textiles. There have been lots of people, people that I've known, people I've worked with, friends who've lost their jobs as a result of their companies closing and taking advantage of this great deal that's been set up for them by our government's policies.
Right.
And I know you've done a considerable amount of research about that, in particular for the state of Maine, and wonder if you might talk about that.
Sure. I've looked, part of my job at the National Labor Committee was really looking at corporations, finding out which ones were operating in Haiti, the Dominican Republic, El Salvador, compiling data on these companies and finding out where they shut down, where did they move from. And this is an unbelievably difficult task. For each company, it was like a battle. Sometimes I would literally spend 2 months on a company trying to figure out where its plant was. I knew they had a plant in the Dominican Republic, and I couldn't figure out how to find it out. I had the best computer databases at my resource at hand, and you couldn't do it. They change names, they don't say. You know, it's not something that they like to publicize. You know, how do you defend in a shareholder meeting that, while we pay our workers 56 cents an hour, we're very proud of that fact, that we just shut down in Maine. They don't like to talk about these things, most companies. So anyway, to compound the problem, there is no centralized list of plant closings in the United States. It does not exist. No, we've got an enormous government bureaucracy. They do tons of things. They take tons of tax dollars. But there's nobody there who lists what plants have closed in the United States. No, this doesn't exist. You know, we went through congressional offices to find this out. President Clinton took this campaign up, and he wanted to find a plant that had closed in key districts where he was campaigning, because he took out an advertisement using Rosa Martinez saying your tax dollars were causing your jobs to be lost. So he wanted a plant closing in Michigan because it's a critical state. He wanted a plant closing in South Carolina, and it had to be close enough to a large runway so the reporters and himself could land and go to the plant closing and say, this plant closed as a result of George Bush's policies, and they were going to stump around the states doing that. He had to call us up because there's no place he could turn to find out these plants, you know, plant closings, and where did they relocate to. So you have to use a ton of different sources to do that. I'm from Maine. Come back here quite a bit. People told me about shoes closing, plant closing, so I embarked on researching the shoe industry in Maine, more or less on weekends and vacations and things like this. And it was an extremely torturous project. I spent an entire weekends in the Portland Public Library, University of Southern Maine Library, the Bangor Daily Library, and also the Bangor Daily News, the library for the Bangor Daily News itself. Went through all the articles. I went through, there is trade adjustment assistance programs. You were instrumental in pointing me down that path when I was first learning how to do that, and put me in contact with the Maine State AFL-CIO in Bangor. So I got names from that source also, and I was really shocked at the results. I had not expected it to be so extreme as it turned out to be. The trouble of the Maine shoe industry is probably known to quite a few of the listeners. As you said, you know somebody who's lost a job in a plant. Shoe plants have closed all across the state. Right here, however, all these red marks there are shoe plants that either closed or laid off workers, a major layoff. There's 14 plant closings, 2 mass layoffs. Each of these companies moved production to the Dominican Republic.
So it's not that people are no longer buying shoes.
No.
It's not, that wasn't our problem.
No.
The problem was that the companies that were existing here found it more feasible, more profitable. They were enticed or cajoled, whatever it might be, to take advantage of this great deal that was set up, the Caribbean Basin Initiative.
Right.
Come on down, set up your plant in the Dominican Republic. Now these are, can you get the map on the,
Yeah.
okay. Well, here's Biddeford Saco down here, folks. You're familiar with that. And some of our viewers are up in the Lewiston Auburn area. And I know we have viewers in the Rumford area. And I don't think we have viewers in the Presque Isle area, but we might after this. In any event, any place you are in the state of Maine, it wouldn't have been hard for President Clinton to come to Maine and find
Right.
plants, right?
Right. I didn't know about them then, though.
Well, that's right. Nor did he know about you then. So.
Right.
Okay.
Maybe you probably never will, but this details 3,478 jobs lost since about 1983. The majority were in the late 80s. 14 plants have completely shuttered their doors. And there are 2 major layoffs. The largest number of jobs lost is in my hometown of Bangor, Maine, losing 1,157 jobs. And that could be just because I was in Bangor and I had more ability to really research the plant. Because some of the ownerships, for instance, there's a Bendy shoe plant out on the Hammond Road in Bangor. I had to go to the tax office in Bangor and look through tax documents all morning to find out that it was owned by Lowell Company. There's no place else you could find. Didn't say who owned the plant. It was handwritten in the margins. I suspected it, but I had no proof until I went in and spent an entire morning doing this. So it takes a lot of work, and it's amazing the degree to which, for whatever reason, the information is not easily available to people.
Mhm.
So,
Could be accidental, Jack. It
Sure.
might mean that they just didn't want, somebody forgot to make this available to
Right.
people, but I think you might suspect that they're trying to make it hard for people in those.
right, because they might come to some conclusions.
That's
that,
right.
that plan, it turns, was owned by Lowell, which was owned by Morse. Morse just sold it, sold that division to Berkshire Hathaway about 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Berkshire Hathaway just bought Dexter Shoe. So, hopefully, things will be good with Dexter Shoe, but
Mhm.
that's a big employer up in Dexter.
Mhm.
Shoe company. There are still shoe companies in Maine.
Mhm.
But 1,157 jobs, 4 plant closings in Bangor, right around the state, 217 in Pittsfield, 250 in North Jay. Brewer lost 400
Mhm.
jobs just right across the Penobscot, 270 in Rumford, 308 right here in Scarborough, the Joseph M Herman Shoe Company,
Mhm.
which is actually owned by Striderite, or was. And so on. Now, these companies moved production, as I said, to the Dominican Republic. The companies, their parent companies, are Amfesco Industries, G.H. Bass and Company, which is now owned by Phillips Van Heusen. There's the Striderite Corporation. There's Timberland Boots, Wolverine Worldwide, and I said the Lowell Shoe Corps. All of these companies now own plants, which are fully up and running, in free trade zones in the Dominican Republic. Now, a free trade zone in the Dominican Republic, the companies there pay no taxes to import their good into the free trade zone, no taxes to export their good from the free trade zone, no income taxes, no corporate taxes, no municipal taxes, no health benefits, no payroll taxes, nothing except for 56 cents an hour, as this advertisement tells you. That's the wages which the workers get. And and furthermore, the companies, now these companies in the Dominican Republic are not selling to the Dominican people at these kind of wages. Their market is one market, that's the United States. They come back into the United States. They have duty-free access. So they can ship their shoes into the United States, duty-free, no taxes. Now the cost for, say, Bass, which flies its shoe uppers from the Dominican Republic to Boston and then on to Portland and Falmouth, is 73 cents to cover insurance, freight, and the airfare, and there's no duty to go all the way from the Dominican Republic to Portland, Maine. That's per pair of shoe. And those are generally are retail around $80, so it's a very small percent of cost. So basically you've got a sort of free trade where you can look at the Dominican Republic from a corporate point of view is just as close to Maine as, say, Texas. So the wages that these people are being paid is critically important to Maine workers, as this chart goes to show.
This is the sort of thing that people, I think, maybe they have some general notion that, yeah, all these jobs used to be here, but wages were too high or whatever. Companies took advantage of an opportunity they had, and because one company went, the next company had to go, and it sort of does become sort of a steamroll effect. It's now very hard for somebody who wants to manufacture in this industry to do so when all their competitors are taking advantage of the 56 cents.
Right.
That becomes the logic of capitalism says, well, you've got to do what your competitor is doing if you're going to be able to compete with them at the marketplace. And I guess the point that's being made here, one of the points, is that this didn't have to be this way. This was a decision that was a political decision that this is the way in which we are going to encourage development of the Caribbean. And this was sort of part of the Reagan's line against the Red Menace that might have been threatening the U.S. from Central America. This was a way we were going to help them develop their economies. And this was put to a vote, and my recollection was this was back in 1982 or 83, but I believe that Representative Snow was serving in Congress. This was mostly her district here.
Right.
The shoe industry was to this day is still Olympia Snow's congressional district, and I believe she voted in favor of this Caribbean Basin bill back in 1980, whatever it was, 2 or 3.
Right. Right.
Not her alone. Lots of people voted for this thing. It became the law of the land.
And the fact is that workers in her district who used to work for Wolverine, who used to work for Wilton, who used to work for Timberland, their jobs are now with workers that get 56 cents an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she, as a representative of those workers, has the duty to protest this fact, to say something about it. And she also has the duty all along to say, wait a minute, the U.S. government should not be funding groups that are helping companies move offshore, helping Maine companies to move offshore. So even if, it's not just one vote. I mean, she dropped the ball. She dropped the ball. You can't have, or it's just unbelievable to have this group here, the Investment Promotion Council, which gave out a free packet to footwear companies on how to take their company to the Dominican Republic free trade zones, paying 56 cents an hour. This is mailed it to whoever wanted. It's called the IPC, Investment Promotion Council. They got $11 million of U.S. taxpayers' money. So where's Olympia Snow saying, why are you giving $11 million to this group? USAID, again, the Agency for International Development, which does our foreign aid around the world, gave $20.8 million directly to the free trade zones in the Dominican Republic. Again, every single one of these shoe companies is in a free trade zone. So what are they doing with the free trade? They're building factories, they're building sewers, they're building electricity. Our tax dollars. Main shoe companies gonna unbelievable. Why doesn't she say something? The World Bank, $31 million to finance free trade zones in the Dominican Republic. The U.S. tax dollars, $1.9 billion has gone to the World Bank. Now, all this money pouring into the free trade zones, I just want to get one statistic. Timberland, in 1988, this is another, you got competition in many ways, but you're going to get competition on the wages. But Timberland in 1988 paid 29 cents per square foot a month in Bangor. This was on the old Dow Air Force Base. I'm sure it's subsidized by the city of Bangor because this was an old military base, so they would have had it for cheap. 29 cents per square foot per month in Bangor. And as I said, it was already built. In the Dominican Republic, during the same year, it paid 5 cents per square foot per month. So it had a rent 6 times less for an old factory building on an Air Force base in Bangor compared to a new factory building just put up in the Dominican Republic. Why? Because there's so much subsidy. They've subsidized these factories.
Okay. All of these examples that you raise are close to home. This is, trying to make the point as to what's the connection. Why do we care about U.S. policies in Central America? Why do we care about what our government is doing with the Caribbean Basin Initiative or any of those issues that many people might consider, well, that's somebody else's problem. That's really not, that's not us. That doesn't affect us here in Maine or here in the United States. And the point that you're making very well, Jack, is the direct connection between our policies, our government's policies, and business policies to take advantage, so-called advantage, of cheap labor with what happens to our economy here in Maine. And why is it that we are struggling with our domestic economy? Why is it that people are having a hard time making ends meet? Manufacturing jobs have disappeared. They haven't disappeared. They've been disappeared. They have been consciously taken to other more favorable climates, or so-called more favorable climates.
And I'd like to say one tiny thing about the twin plants, which a twin plant is a plant in the Dominican Republic and another plant in Puerto Rico. As I already said, Bass or Timberland, these companies, Wolverine Worldwide that makes hush puppies, they don't pay any taxes in the Dominican Republic. And what a twin plant allows them to do is they do the labor-intensive part in the Dominican Republic. Then they ship it duty-free to Puerto Rico. And in Puerto Rico, they finish the product by lasting the shoes together. They put the shoes together from the upper to the sole. And that production happens in Puerto Rico. Because of 936, which is a tax provision in Puerto Rico, they don't pay any U.S. taxes. So it's a businessman's dream. They've got no taxes, no regulations, 56 cents an hour wages in the Dominican Republic, duty-free access into the United States, and no U.S. taxes. Now, this whole twin plant provision was enacted in 1987. It really took off in 88, 89. They were going to abolish the twin plant provision of 936 except for the Grenada incident, is that's what the footwear industries, is the group in Puerto Rico said for whatever reason. So there are political overtones to this, as far as what you were saying with the Red Menace.
We have experience here in Maine, and I don't want to get in a lot of detail here to Warnaco Hathaway Shirt Company that we deal with, but it has a plant in Puerto Rico, has a twin plant arrangement with a new plant that they have developed in Honduras. That we are currently discussing with the company how we're going to proceed, but the bottom line is we've now got 200 people in Maine who've lost their jobs in the last month for a number of reasons, but in part I can assure you that production in Honduras is increasing as production in Maine is decreasing. Not unique to Warnaco, and an argument can be made, and within its own logic is consistent, saying, God, everybody else is doing it, and we can't sell our product at the retail stores because all of our competitors, Phillips Van Heusen and Arrows and the others, have been doing this to a much greater extent for a much longer period of time. And we are in very difficult straits here in Maine as a result of that, and as a result of these policies. I'd just like to put one thing out here for discussion, and that is that if we think back to the discussion we had a few minutes ago about how it used to be that companies would drive down their labor costs by essentially importing workers, low-wage immigrant workers, poor blacks, whatever it might be in a given situation, they would drive down wages by importing workers, and now they're driving down wages by exporting the jobs. Well, the way in which workers organized to try to protect themselves in the earlier days was to organize those workers, that everybody would be part of a labor movement that would try to protect wages and working conditions for all of us, whether we were black, white, whatever ethnic group we might be, that we realized that we had a common interest in joining together, and that's what we call unions. Well, there are those people in the labor movement today, and I'm proud to say our union is among them, who think that the strategy for workers to protect their conditions in the United States is not to somehow throw up a barrier and say we're not going to recognize trade and we have to stop imports and so on. That's just not going to happen. The way in which to do it is to form common bond with those workers in the Dominican or Honduras or wherever it is, so that together we have an international union that can raise all of our standards. That's something that I know you've seen and had some discussions with, but would you say that's sort of the focus of where the international work of the union is going?
Well, it's absolutely critical. It's absolutely critical to the 3,478 workers who lost their jobs due to low wages in Central America and the Caribbean, because the workers there are so exploited. And yes, it's 100% necessary for workers to organize and work together. The National Labor Committee has been working on that for 10 years. A good example of one of the things we did in Honduras was in the free trade zones. First of all, they're mostly young women. There was a human rights group there who did a study of the free trade zones in Honduras. The average age of the workers is between 14 and 20 years old. And they're women. And they generally get taken from the countryside. So they really don't know about trade unions, they really don't know about their rights. Now the women there, and we've had I've met many of them that have come up to the United States, and we've had sent people, have people go down. They're tested to see whether or not they're pregnant. If they're pregnant, they're fired. If they work there for more than a year and a half, they're fired. Basically because they're given certain seniority rights and other rights, and also as they grow older, they start to get a little bit fed up about how they're being treated, and they start to try and assert their rights. Is basically the logic. The upshot is we brought two workers up who are 18 and 19 years old, and we said, boy, you look awfully young. And they said, we're called the old ladies of the plant, because there are no workers there. Anyway, last January, the workers in the free trade zones just got so fed up with the way they're being treated, and just so outraged at it, that they just did wildcat strikes. Nobody, the unions in Honduras, anybody else, it wasn't a planned thing. It was just all a spontaneous outburst of just absolute disgust at the way that they were having their rights so trampled. At that time, we got the presidents of the National Labor Committee to sign a letter saying we support your right to organize. Goods that come into the United States have to have worker rights protections, or it's illegal for those goods to be imported into the United States under certain U.S. laws, and basically we support you. We took that ad out in Honduran newspapers. It's very cheap. There is only like $800, so that was a great big one-page ad in all the Honduran newspapers. At the same time, Charlie Kernigan, we had a movie made with him, and it was about 7 minutes long. It's very professionally done. A filmmaker donated his time. It was done in the garment district in New York City, and Honduras is a very poor country. The television stations there don't have a lot of footage of New York City. It's not something that they have. Now they're dealing with an issue that is garments going to the United States and workers striking all across the country, so it's on the news quite a bit. They didn't have this footage. We sent it down to a human rights group, and they said to the news media, look, we've got all this great footage of New York that's about the garment industry. And so they put it on the television. They ran the whole clip. So here was a very union perspective saying we support your right to organize. We're standing with you. Here's the laws under which you have to have your rights protected, or your bosses can't sell their goods to the United States because they violate our laws. And this really made a great impact and helped the workers there. Evidently, some of the workers took the full-page advertisements and were posting them on the plant. A couple snuck them into the boss's desk, left them on the boss's desk. So, and it really shook up some of the bosses.
And it's a current example, a more recent example of the kinds of work that we're trying to do in terms of building some bonds with workers in the countries of Central America and the Caribbean, because that's the only really long-term improvement strategy both for them and for us. I'd like Jack Forrest to talk a few minutes about your committee's work and your perspective on the issue of Haiti, because Haiti is among the countries of the Caribbean that has been the beneficiary, is not the right word, the target of certain U.S. policies, and it's clearly front and center on the news right now. Everyone has heard about Haiti and knows that there are some tens of thousands of U.S. troops that are in Haiti right now. I wonder if you might talk a little bit about the Labor Committee did do a report back a couple of years ago
1993,
on Haiti after the coup. We're in a transition phase right now. President Aristide is supposed to be returning to Haiti within 2 weeks' time. And I wonder if you could address for a few minutes the whole Haiti issue and how that figures in from a labor perspective.
Okay. I'll give it a go.
Okay.
We started looking at Haiti 2.5 years ago. President Aristide was in New York. We had a large meeting hosted by Jack Shankman, president of the Clothing and Textile Workers Union. He invited President Shankman and other members of the National Labor Committee to go to Haiti and see for themselves what the real conditions were. President Shankman went down to Haiti along with other people from the Communication Workers Union, the Railway Workers Union, and the ILG, the Ladies Garment Workers Union. And the result of it was this report. So we've been looking at Haiti, been involved with it for quite a while. Haiti is, just as Mike said, it was very much front and center in this whole maquiladora production that was across the Caribbean Basin. And when I say maquiladora, do you think we should define that a little
Just
bit?
very briefly, it's a word people have heard, but...
Yeah, well, with a shirt, let's say, the piece of clothing here will be cut in the United States of U.S. fabric or some other fabric, and either U.S. made or it could be even made in Taiwan. It gets cut here. The fabric gets made, gets cut here, then it goes to places like Haiti, Honduras, Dominican Republic, where they sew it together, because that's the labor-intensive part. It takes a lot of time to sew it, and then it gets re-imported back into the United States. Now, the benefit of all this for companies is they get to pay the low wages in Haiti and then get the good to come back into the United States with guaranteed access. And that's another thing that happened in '87. They had guaranteed access to make sure their good could come back into the United States. The duty on it is only in the value added. So it's only in value that got added to the shirt would be the wages that were paid to sew it together, and that's it.
And
They
very,
don't-
very low wages means very low value added, which means very low taxes, which means a
Bingo.
very nice deal, if you happen to
Exactly.
be the owner of such a business.
Exactly. So the lower the wages, the lower the duty, and the lower the price that they pay for it, and they can buy loans.
So Haiti is served as such a depot, such a country that's had the maquiladora plants, and has had the reputation of being, the lowest wage, the lowest standard of living country of any in the Western Hemisphere, I believe.
Right.
I wonder if we might, just to sort of set a little perspective for this, just take a look here for 2 minutes. We had earlier this year had an opportunity to have a conversation on this show with Avi Chomsky, who's a professor of history who has a lot of knowledge about the situation in Haiti from a historical perspective. And we're going to just use a little clip here to lay out Avi's analysis, a little bit of the historical background of Haiti. Let's just take a quick look here.
I think in giving you the profile, I'd like to emphasize that a lot of the way the discussion of Haiti is framed in the media today, and what most people probably hear, is based on a couple of myths about Haiti's history and about U.S. policy in Haiti and what it's been. So as I talk about the history, I'd like to sort of clarify that. Generally, Haiti is presented as a country which is isolated, that for some sort of inexplicable reason it's very poor. There's often a racist underpinning to this, that it's very poor because it's very black, that those two are related, that it's culturally very alien to us, that underdevelopment in Haiti is somehow inherently a part of Haiti. And I think that myth is based on really not looking at Haitian history and at the history of U.S. involvement in Haiti and U.S. policy in Haiti. In fact, over the course of this century, the United States has been very deeply involved in Haiti politically and economically, from actually militarily occupying the country between 1915 and 1934, leaving the country having created an army and trained an army, just what they're talking about doing today, which is the roots of today's army, with very strong economic involvement in Haiti, and that a lot of the reason for Haiti's underdevelopment and poverty today is because of the history of U.S. involvement in Haiti and the kinds of policies that the U.S. has followed, economic policies and then political policies needed to keep those economic policies in place.
So a point that you're making is that this is not something that's this just didn't happen. There's a long history to Haiti that brings us to the unhappy situation that we're facing today.
And a long history of U.S. control of what's happening in Haiti. That is, when Clinton gets on the air and says, well, terrible things are happening in Haiti, what he doesn't say is, and they're our fault.
That was a little bit of the historical background provided by Avi Chomsky. But Jack, could you talk for us a little bit about the whole issue of wages? We've been focusing on the low wages and the low wage haven that countries like Haiti have provided for U.S. assembly manufacturing operations. What happened in Haiti during President Aristide's few months in office that were important from our perspective here?
Right. He was elected in December of 1991. February 1991, December 1990, February 1991, he took office, and soon afterwards he came up with the idea to raise the wages. The wages in Haiti have been dropping precipitously due to inflation and for other reasons. He wanted to raise the wages from roughly around 22 cents an hour up to 53 cents an hour. That's fully loaded with health benefits and everything else. So 53 cents an hour. And that put the business groups in Haiti and USAID, the Agency for International Development, in an uproar. That was too much for them. That was Aristide's fatal flaw. I have a couple quotes concerning this from USAID documents themselves. They said that this is June, so this is only 4 months after he's been in office. He said that Aristide has made signals to the business community which were mixed. It goes on to say, decisions have been made which could be highly detrimental to economic growth in Haiti, for example, in areas of labor and foreign exchange controls. So, project will work, this is another project. We'll work with local business organizations to develop internationally competitive local production. Again, the only way for it to be competitive internationally is the low wages. It goes on to say, build constituencies for open market policies and move Haiti towards becoming a full partner in a hemispheric free trade bloc.
So what's been going on here behind the scenes is a debate about, is President Aristide, the democratically elected president of the people of Haiti, first one ever, leading Haiti away from what they apparently wanted Haiti to be, a low-wage sweatshop for export to the United States.
Right, and so what USAID did is, against this legislative reform in the area of labor controls, is they founded a group of coalition. They established a front group, paid them $12.7 million under one project to basically organize, they call it a policy debate, against the proposed minimum wage increase. And that soon afterwards, he was overthrown.
Is this U.S. taxpayer dollars being used to influence a debate in Haiti about raising the minimum wage? Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
$12 million worth of our tax dollars
12.7
being used in a lobbying effort to lobby within the country of Haiti,
right,
to encourage them not to raise their minimum wage,
right,
which was 22 cents an hour.
right.
You hear that? That's what I heard.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible that they would give this money and organize these people to lobby against the proposed minimum wage increase. The proposed minimum wage increase did not go through because Aristide was thrown out of power. And this raising the wages from, it would have been from roughly $2 a day, that's the way it turns out, to $4 a day, was much too much for USAID. The group that it used as sort of a coalition builder was Prominex Haiti, was the umbrella group which would lobby, promote a policy debate concerning the proposed legislation, which is very much against, was Prominex Haiti. I have a couple quotes here from this organization. Again, it's an organization which was had a job that was very similar to Fasade's here, and that was to promote investment. Prominex, a long-term promotion effort funded by the U.S., this is from the 80s, so it's funded by the U.S., it was still funded now, has received the backing of President Reagan, who shares the excitement that is being felt in the new Haiti. The result of this commitment is that an investor has all the resources of a vibrant organization at his fingertips. It says that basically the macular d'or production, which is what it's promoting, Prominex believes can help uplift the whole region and strengthen democracy. This is from a person named Andrea Pade, who, at a business conference in December of 1991, which had over 1,000 attendees in Miami, it was attended by a large number of U.S. congressional delegations, so this is no bit conference. An example of some of the people who were at that conference in Miami were Dante Fascell, Democrat Florida, Philip Crane, Republican Illinois, Benjamin Gilman, Republican New York, Porter Goss, Republican Florida, Lee Hamilton, Democratic Indiana, Robert Torricelli from New Jersey, also another Democrat. Torricelli, you'll hear quite a bit on the news discussing foreign policy questions. Andrea Pade at that meeting in front of the British ambassador to Haiti. The British ambassador said, according to my information, Aristide is very popular. He's elected with 67% of the vote. Wouldn't it make sense from a business point of view to have Aristide come back? You'd have more stability and you'll be able to make your money. The person who was leading this meeting is the Haiti Strategy Breakfast, Peter Johnson, who runs the whole group, said why Andre would kill him. Andre Page vigorously snuffed out a cigarette and said, "I would strangle him." And at that, the British ambassador looked around the room. The participants kept going on with their meeting as if nothing had happened, and he walked out of the room. So these are the kind of people that the U.S. businesses, and these are, all of the most important businesses, U.S. businesses, U.S. companies for the Caribbean area who have the most money invested there, they were all there. The congressional delegation was there. These are the people from Haiti who they deal with. These are the people who they talk to. Prominex itself has received over $26 million. The person who runs it, Andrea Pade, President Prominex Haiti, it's a little bit, you won't be able to see this on the camera, but is publicly threatening to murder Aristide. So you've got a very, very rugged situation where the interests of the U.S. government and business is on the side of basically the five families who control Haiti. Andre Pade also runs a company called Alpha Electronics, which makes everything from apparel to electronic components that go into sonar and radar, which are sold to U.S. companies, Sperry, Unisys, GE, which in turn, and the goods are bought by the U.S. military. He owns nearly a 2,000 worker plant, so he's very much profiting from the low wages. He also sells surgical gloves that are imported by an Act II shop in Louisiana, which has had a rugged impact.
So what you've got then over the course of the last 3 years, after President Aristide was overthrown by the military in service of the class of people who were benefiting from the low minimum wage and the conditions for the majority of Haitian people.
Right.
During that period of time, during the last 3 years, suffice to say the minimum wage has not gone up. Conditions for the majority of Haitians have not improved. They become desperate.
Right.
We're, a long story, but we are today in a posture of having however many tens of thousands of American troops on the ground to try to enable the return of President Aristide, who may have the same ideas in mind in terms of trying to represent the interests of the majority of Haitian citizens. I mean, that remains to be seen whether or not he'll have the ability to do that. But you have had, over the course of this last 3-year period, a lot of discussion in the United States about democracy. We stand for democracy, but there's this problem about how the only democratically elected president of Haiti was overthrown with our knowledge and maybe some might say support, and his return to power has been something that we've been stumbling over for now 3 years' time. We did institute an embargo, didn't we? Wasn't there supposed to be an embargo on products produced in Haiti during the course of this?
Right, and I went to the store yesterday, to the Maine Mall, place I don't like to go, but it's necessary, and I bought something. I went to the Olympia Sports Center, right there in the middle of the Maine Mall, and lo and behold, a Worth Titan. It's a softball. Worth is the largest seller of softballs in the United States. The softball is made in Haiti. That I just bought yesterday. Now, it's very interesting to look at the whole case of the softball. That softball came in from Haiti duty-free. No taxes were paid on it by the U.S. importer. They got it in scot-free. Haitian softballs, I also went to the library yesterday, Haitian softballs are 18% of all the softballs imported into the United States in 1994 between January and May came from Haiti. Okay, 18% of U.S. softballs came from Haiti in 1994. That's January through May data. Now, there's an embargo. 18% of softballs are coming in. They're coming in duty-free. It's an unbelievable situation. To go back a little bit, to sort of look and see how the administration has been playing ball with the Haitian business class there. In February 1992, the Bush administration granted a loophole to all the maquiladora companies in Haiti. Again, here come the maquiladora companies. They don't have to abide by the embargo. says Bush. And so they only had a 3-month gap there, so they continue importing. They import baseballs, softballs, clay tiles, fishing rods, fishing lures, apparel of all sorts. It's it turns into a bit of a booming industry. During the loophole of the embargo, which lasted 25 months, trade actually began to increase. Okay, from 1993 as compared to 1992. In 1993, the U.S. imported $154 million worth of goods from Haiti. In 1992, it was only 107. It's a 46% increase in U.S. imports from Haiti, all during the embargo.
Right.
Now, what kind of embargo do you have where your exports are booming by 46%? What kind of message is that going to be to the Haitian business elite when they're having 46% growth? I mean, if Maine could do 46% exports,
Right.
everybody would be jumping for joy.
It might speak to why it is that the CEDRAS and the military seem to have been hard pressed to believe that the United States was ever really serious about restoring democracy.
Right.
To the point of the infamous meetings with former President Carter, and then the negotiations that are supposed to lead to Aristide's return.
Exactly.
I mean, we'll need to stay tuned on this, and I suspect we'll have an opportunity to talk about the developing situation in Haiti again, because our point here is that it's not happening in isolation. What's going on in Haiti, what's going on in the Dominican, what's going on in Honduras has a direct relationship to what's going on in Maine and to others, people in the rest of the United States. And we need to be paying attention to that. We have some responsibility in it, but we also have some real connections between ourselves and workers and working people in these countries. And I think that's sort of what the Labor Committee has been about doing for the last number of years. Right.
Last Sunday I saw in the newspaper that the Muse family was renting to the U.S. military. This is during the occupation. This is just last week. It's industrial parks, so the military can park all their Jeeps and everything else. The military is going to build oil storage facilities on these industrial parks under the agreement that when they leave, the oil storage facilities go to the Muse, so they get the plant scot-free. Now the Muse family, they're one of the top 5 families for Haiti. The New York Times editorial board says that they paid for the coup. Okay, the New York Times itself, that's pretty official. And they're one of the major exporters of softballs from Haiti. They paid a D.C. law firm, Fritz Muse did, over $100,000 in 1993 to keep this loophole open. Now, we interviewed and talked to workers who worked in Muse-owned plants in Haiti, and they were being paid 2 cents per ball. I paid $5.99, the average ball is priced for a softball. That one was $5.99, and they get 2 pennies to make it. Their wages were 5 cents an hour. So.
Well, the conditions for Haitian workers are something that we have to focus on more. I would just suggest to our viewers in the closing minutes here, we'll have an opportunity perhaps to take a look at some of the women who are making the Haitian softball, some videotape we have from Haiti, so we have some idea of where it is these products come from that are retailing for $5.99 at the Maine Mall. What's it cost to make that product? Jack, we're out of time. Thank you very much for your time here.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks to our viewers, and let's just take a look at the closing clips.
The Bush administration, claiming concern for Haitian jobs, lifted the embargo on American assembly plants.
The U.S. formally opposed the coup. My assumption is that it is waiting for an appropriate moment to find a way to restore to dominance in the society the wealthy business classes and the military, who are the natural U.S. allies, because they will ensure stability. They'll help Haiti become part of the Caribbean system that the U.S. is trying to create, a system which provides super cheap labor, which will be our East Asia, basically.
Aristide's proposal to raise the minimum wage from $3 to $5 a day antagonized both American and Haitian business leaders, such as the reputed mastermind of the coup, Jean-Claude Roy.
If you speak only on the economical level, Aristide never brought the climate that would be advantageous for investment or for business expansion. On to the contrary, there was continuous threats on what he calls the bourgeois patriote and the bourgeois patripoche. And there were definitely a lot of threats against me. My view on that is that Aristide should perhaps return, but he should return to be judged. He should return to be tried.